We have Sharad Agarwal, who's going to be talking about scams. The paper title is very long. Hi, Mom, I dropped my phone down the toilet. Investigating Hi, Mom and Dad SMS scams in the United Kingdom. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am a final year PhD candidate at UCL, and I study online financial fraud with a focus on studying data, measuring it empirically on a longitudinal level. This work has been done in collaboration with my colleagues from Stop Scams UK, UCL Crime Science, Guillermo from India, who is here as well, and my advisor, Marie, who unfortunately couldn't come today. In addition to the traditional SMS phishing texts, the scammers have recently started to come up with a new interaction kind of scam, which is referred here as Hi Mom and Dad scam. In this particular scam, the scammers pretend to be a child in distress, send a text to the user referring to them as their parent, mom or dad, and ask for financial help. This is a great Times article, and I say great because also our work is featured in it. You can scan the QR code to read more about it. For those of you who might have never heard or seen this particular scam text, here is an example of an initial scam text, which is sent by an originating sender ID, giving the reason why the person is sending this text from a completely different number, and ask the user to initiate a conversation to another number, which we refer to as the scammer number. And as you would expect, we started initiating conversation with these numbers. So we sent a message to the scammer number that you saw in the initial scam text. We chose a completely random name to refer to the scammer as our child, and we pretended to be their mom. The scammers reply to the first message of as their first response, saying, "Oh, I lost it. My bank account is logged, and I'm stressed." So trying to show emotions and trying to tell you what they're going next for. As a good parent, we ask them how we can help them, and the scammer says they have a bill to pay. And as any of you of a good parent would do, we ask them how much and how can we pay that money, which results in the scammer providing us a suspect mule account. Now, a lot of you might be from the US, have a different way of banking. So I wanted to take a minute to show how the peer-to-peer banking works outside the US, where people can send money from one bank account to another in a few seconds through the faster payment network. In the UK, we have something called sort code and account number, which is a unique identifier for every individual's bank account. And we also refer these as money mule accounts. For those of you who do not know what a money mule is, it's an individual or an entity that is abused by the scammers to hop the money from one place to another before it actually reaches the scammer for cashing it out. These mules can be witting or unwitting, which is they might not know that they're actually being used as a money mule, and some of them are witting, which is they are completely aware of what they are doing with this. So moving to the methodology of this project, this work, we collaborated with an organization called Stop Scams UK, which is a non-profit organization based in the UK working to stop scams, as it's pretty much clear from the name, and a mobile network operator in the UK as well. They provided us with 3,402 initial scam texts and the 711 engaged conversations on which we conducted textual analysis. The phone numbers that these particular scam texts were using, we performed home location register lookup on them to understand how this mobile network works. And the suspect mules that we just saw, we conducted financial analysis of them to understand what kind of banking system they belong to and what they're trying to do with that. And we also geographically locate some of these accounts which are associated with a physical branch in the country. And last but not the least, we also identify potential scammer networks using these mobile numbers that provided these particular suspect mules. So I'll move to some of the results from our work. And if we look at the initial scam texts, the scammers have a preference to move the conversation towards online encrypted messaging medium, such as WhatsApp, which is highlighted here. They also refer to these messages as for the users of mom and dad, and the size of these particular characters in the word cloud show the amount of the volume of these words, which shows that scammers prefer to target female users over male users. And lastly, in the initial scam text, they provide various reasons of why they are contacting the user from a completely different number. It could be because the phone was broken, or as the title of the paper says, the phone went down the toilet, or it got smashed, dropped, and they're sending a message from their friend's phone, or it's a temporary number. So looking at the engagement results of these conversations that we had conversations over SMS and also the online messaging medium that the scammers wanted us to do. In the SMS side of stuff, we divided the SIMs into 3 different categories. One of them was pretending to be mom, the other one was pretending to be a dad, and the third one, we didn't say if it's a mom or a dad, we just send them a normal text. And in the online messaging, you will see that there is a lot more scammers contacted here. That is mostly because in the WhatsApp methodology, we were just copy pasting the initial text and sending it to 10 to 20 people at a time, instead of having a more defined initial text, which was just to understand how it would work if we do this on a WhatsApp level, on an SMS level, and see. And the differences here show that, of course, the response rate is the maximum when we pretend to be a mom. Next, we look at the unigram analysis. So we did an n-gram analysis. We start with a unigram analysis of the first 3 responses of the scammers. The first one shows how the scammers show their emotional side using words like, I'm stressed, I was an idiot, I just threw my phone down, and tell them why they are sending this message from a different number, the reasoning. In the second response, they continue the emotional side of it, and then move towards giving reasons why their banking is not working or their bank account is locked because it's a new number. In the third response, the emotional words completely disappear, and they just move towards the banking side, requesting for money, or if they want to pay a bill and they need help with that. We also did bigram analysis on it, which just strengthens what we see in the unigram analysis. It doesn't add a lot of new stuff, but it just strengthens what we see in the unigram. And the reason why we do this is to actually study scam lures. So Stajano and Wilson wrote a paper which looked into different kind of lures that scammers use to deceive victims. These are 7 different scam principles, scam lures. The first one is distraction, where the scammers or the threat actors confuse the users by providing completely unrelated details. They use kindness to leverage the willingness of other people to help, in this particular case, their parents. The third one is time, where they just pressurize the user to make a completely irrational decision. Social compliance or authority, where basically the society teaches people to not question an authoritative person or an entity. The herd principle, which is just taking the same risk because other people have taken it and they got money out of it. Dishonesty is where users willingly know that they are taking part in a particular scam and still continue to do that. And need and greed is just leveraging users' greed and giving them offers. Does anybody has a guess of which principles we saw in the hi mom and dad scam text? So it's distraction, kindness, and the time urgency. So the things we just saw in the first 3 responses. And then we also measured the time when the scammers were responding to us. So we looked at the distribution of their messages every day of the week. We did not did conversations on the weekends, therefore you just see a few dots on Saturdays and Sundays. The other days, the distribution is completely different every day, which is statistically proven. Next, I mentioned about the home location register lookup, which we use for mobile network analysis. A lot of you might not know, so I thought it would be interesting to explain what that is. If you put a mobile number into one of these services, it validates a phone number. It tells you if this particular phone number is currently available, what is the exact status of the network connection of that phone number, the mobile network operator that it belongs to, and if the number has ever been ported from one network to another, or if it is in roaming or not. And that is just a random example, nothing to do with the data here. So using that HLR lookup, we performed this mobile network distribution table. It shows different kind of operators. In the UK, we have physical networks. We have the MVNOs, which is mobile virtual network operator, which provides a physical SIM card, but actually runs on top of the physical networks. And then we have the virtual numbers, which do not provide a SIM card, but just provide virtual network services. And of course, like random pager and landline, which I guess is just spoof numbers, basically, because you wouldn't use a landline to send SMS text. And as it's pretty clear from this table, the MNO1 was the most abused to keep anonymization. I'm not going to name any of the operators here. And then we perform survival analysis. So survival analysis helps us to actually reveal patterns of how long the mobile numbers are active before they went offline, which basically just illustrates the fraction of mobile numbers that become inactive after a given time. The left side is the originating sender ID, which is the phone number of the initial scam text from which it was sent. And the right side is the phone numbers which we interact with, also the scammer phone numbers. And if you see the mean and the median of the originating sender ID is much shorter than the scammer phone numbers, which is actually 46 days, which shows that the mobile network operators are probably not able to see these numbers and take them down as quick as the originating one, because these would be spamming the messages together, whereas that one is more on interaction level. Moving to the suspect mules, so we collected 582 suspect mules from 270 unique scammer numbers, and they requested over 577,000 pounds from us in 3 months. We distribute them into 30 financial institutions, and before that, we see this table of how much money is requested over SMS versus the online messaging platform. As you can see, they ask comparatively less amount of money over SMS compared to WhatsApp. It's probably due to different attackers having a different MO, the modus operandi, how they want to conduct these campaigns over platforms. We don't know the exact reasoning why it could be that.
Sorry, do you have a time frame for this? Like over how much? Like 1 day, 1 year?
So this is over three months. So we conducted this experiment for 3 months in the summer of 23.
Okay, thank you.
And then we distributed the accounts into 30 financial institutions. You see the top 2, which is the high street banks and the electronic money institutions. I don't know how to define it for a very US-specific audience, but high street banks are big banks like Barclays, Santander, if you have heard of those names. The electronic money institutions are more like Monzo, Revolut, something like maybe a Cash App, I'm not sure. And then 3 other categories. We mostly focus on the first 2 because that is where the main number of suspect mule lies. And what we see here is the distribution of these amounts from electronic money institutions and high street banks. In electronic money institutions, the scammer requested comparatively less amount per request compared to high street banks, where they asked for over 2,500 pounds in 29 requests, whereas in electronic money institutions, there were only 8 requests over that amount. This kind of signifies how scammers try to evade detection by financial institutions because they would trigger alerts if they see any anomalies in transferring of these amounts. Then we looked into the geolocation of these. So electronic money institutions are all online. There is no physical locations which we could actually look into. However, for the accounts in high street banks, some of them are sort codes which are associated to a branch. And so we try to plot them in the geographical location. And it's overlaid by the population density and the unemployment rates in the UK as per the Office of National Statistics. As you can see, they follow the patterns of population density and the unemployment rates of 16 years and above. However, there are a few outliers like this one or these ones, and these are very important to understand because it helps to find mitigations. It helps for law enforcement to understand what are the particular areas geographically that they should be looking into for awareness and the other reasons why people are becoming mules here. If you just go by population density or unemployment rates, you will just focus on these particular areas and these outliers get missed out. Last but not the least, we look at these scammer networks. So this is a graph network showing nodes. The red triangles are mobile numbers, and the blue squares are the mule accounts that these scammer numbers provided us. So initially, we look at we identify the first 6 groups which had more than 4 mobile numbers connected in one network. And then the last 3 are the groups which ask for more than 10,000 pounds. So the last 3 is basically signifying that you don't need a lot of mobile numbers to run the same mule accounts and get enough money, significant amount of money. To zoom in, enlarge one of these groups, we see 8 phone numbers that provided 31 mule accounts from 8 different institutions requesting over 40,000 pounds. We actually provided all of this data to law enforcement as well, and they tried to investigate where these numbers are at that point in time. Some kind of impact. So we submitted the results of our research to 2 of the consultations. Ofcom is the mobile network regulator in the UK, and to the Spanish government of digital transformation to see, so they opened these consultation calls for tackling SMS scams and calls. We used the research to submit it. I'm not going to correlate this, but after the consultation on this particular Ofcom thing, the UK Home Office came up with the Economic and Transparency Bill, which has banned the use of SIM farms, SIM boxes in the UK. And from the Spanish government consultation, there has been a new legislation in Spain, which tackles SMS scams and asks operators to stop these messages. And lastly, just wanted to show that this particular scam itself has a high impact of 2.3 million pounds, which translates to $2.9 million per year as an estimate in the UK, and how scammers abuse SIM boxes, SIM farms that run on GSM networks. As you saw, MNO1 was the most abused operator. And then they try to evade detection using amounts requested financially over time from different, and identify which particular banks or financial institutions could be targeted more if they want to avoid detection. And the network analysis shows how we can actually identify the different groups of threat actors that exist in this ecosystem. If you want to read more about this, please look at our paper. There's a QR code for it. And yeah, I'm open for questions. Thank you. And if there's any other thing you don't want to ask here because this is recorded, you can always send me an email.
Questions?
Question. Do you know how easy it is to get the money transferred back from the mule? If someone reports this to the police, would the banks reverse the charge?
So generally, people do not report it to the police. They actually report it to the banks. And in the UK, we have a new law now, which is called the APP reimbursement. APP stands for Advanced Push Payment Fraud. And the banks have to refund 100% of the money back to the victims. The 50% is refunded from the bank of the victim, and the other 50% is given by the receiver bank. So in this particular case, which classifies as an APP scam, yes, they do. For others, I think it's more on a case-by-case basis.
So that means the mule's the real victim.
As I said, they can be witting or unwitting. So there might be mules which knowingly participate into these operations, whereas there can be mules which are completely unwitting. They are just hired by fake job scam advertisements, and they're thinking that they're working for Amazon or Microsoft doing some big thing. So yeah, no idea at all about that. Sorry, I had a question.
Yeah, is the reason that I guess I was wondering why they give another number to call back on. Is that because they can evade detection better that way? Or like?
Partly, yes. So one of the things is because a lot of countries, including the US, UK, Canada, other countries, have implemented filtering systems in place. So if they see a particular message coming over SMS, big in volume, they will get blocked. And so to avoid detection, but also kind of an hypothesis is there are different threat actor groups, one of which is only doing these initial scam texts. So you go to a particular threat actor group, you say, send 10,000 messages of this particular scam to these many numbers, take 60 euros or whatever, and give these numbers. And the numbers, which is referred to as scammer number, are the ones where the different group of scammers are actually interacting with people.
More questions?
Yeah, so in this, seems like in the results, almost all the numbers and the mule accounts were in the UK. Is that universal for UK scamming?
So we specifically looked into these messages because we collaborated with a mobile operator in the UK, and we were interacting with scammers from the UK numbers, which were targeting UK victims. But the particular scam is not limited to UK at all. It is being found in the US, Germany, Spain, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, multiple countries across the globe.
What I meant is like, is there many numbers from outside the UK who target UK?
Not that we have seen. We only see UK numbers targeting this particular scam because you need to interact with them. So maybe you can use other numbers for your initial scam, but it would be less convincing because if you live in the UK, your kid lives in the UK, they wouldn't be sending you a text from a US or a Philippine number.
I'm sorry I was a bit late for your talk. I don't know if you mentioned it, but so given that the loss is 2.3 million euros, do you have any measurements against against this type of attacks, and how much would it cost compared to this 2.3 million euros?
I don't think we can estimate the amount required to implement mitigations, but we do suggest a bunch of mitigations, some of which came to our consultations to the Spanish government and Ofcom and have been implemented. For example, stopping the complete sale purchase of SIM farms, which is used to send the initial scam texts, making the detection mechanisms in financial institutions better so they can trigger alerts not just based on particular amounts of money that is being requested. And a lot of these results have been shared with law enforcement and the banks that were affected. And I think a lot of these suspect mules were also taken down from that.
Have you seen any evidence of the use of AI during the communication instead of human typing things in?
That's an interesting question, and we have been trying to answer that till date. There is no specific way to measure if this is an AI. We have definitely seen copy-paste messages a lot, so you see the same messages and it's being sent across, which kind of translates to also a lot of these YouTube videos you might see for scam baiting, where they have a script and they just use the same script, which is kind of translated here on text. We tried to measure the timestamps as well, but they were completely random, so we couldn't find that it was coming at a completely same time difference of messages or anything happening around. So till date, unsure.
Questions? I have one question. Do you know why some operators are so overrepresented?
You mean why they are more abused?
Yeah.
Our understanding is because, so there are two things, right? One of them is how they are blocking these text messages. Some might have a different system of blocking it. At least in the UK, they use, all of the major four use the base as the same company, and then they make rules on that. The other one, to our understanding from the originating numbers, is because the use of GSM. So SIM boxes, SIM farms are traditionally using GSM, which is 2G as well, that you say, over for SMS. A lot of these do not, like for example, I think MNO4 does not allow GSM on their network, so they've completely taken down GSM. So it wouldn't work for a SIM box. MNO1, on the other hand, definitely works on a SIM box. And that could be a potential reason for that. So in our paper, we actually do suggest some measures for MNOs as well to see if they can find, use our suggestions to mitigate this scam.
So can I piggyback on that? Now that it's click on it, you said SMS, you didn't say things like iMessage or RCS and things like that. Is there a difference?
Yeah, so iMessage and RCS completely work over the internet encrypted.
Yeah.
So they do not pass through the mobile operators unless it downgrades to an SMS.
Yeah.
Recently, I think in the last 1 year, Google has done a lot of new measures on protecting scams. I'm not sure how effective that is because I haven't seen numbers. Apple has also been doing work around it. We have seen these messages over iMessage and RCS too. We did, and we still see it till date. And yeah, it's still there, and the MNOs cannot do much about things going over iMessage and RCS.
Well, let's thank Gerard again.